Modern tradition frames hell, Hades, and Sheol as an ethereal, shadowy realm, a spiritual void designed for the eternal torment of the soul. This concept struggles to align with foundational texts like Deuteronomy, 2 Samuel, and Isaiah. These manuscripts describe a destination that is far more grounded. Ancient writers used strictly physical, geographic descriptors, like foundations of mountains, heavy gates, and restrictive cords, tangible, three-dimensional structures. Deuteronomy 32 describes a fire burning straight down into the depths of Sheol, devouring the earth and setting the foundations of the mountains ablaze. If these authors weren't writing spiritual poetry, they were documenting a literal, physical location on earth. These ancient records indicate that Hades and Sheol were never meant to be interpreted as alternate dimensions or distant planets. During the early era of gold mining colonization, specialized underground facilities were established in resource-rich regions of Africa. This specific site, this stone-arched tunnel into the mountain, served as the historical reality behind the name Hades. The seemingly terrifying, apocalyptic descriptions in ancient scripture align with the mechanical reality of descending into a vast underground African cavern system. Long before it was a place of punishment, the site was a massive operation for underground gold extraction. These wood-supported shafts were part of a heavily fortified industrial infrastructure. The labor force consisted primarily of slaves working in dark, cramped rock spaces. The mechanical hazards of the job were constant. The cords and snares described in the Book of Samuel are literal references to the ropes, pulleys, and restrictive equipment used to manage workers in this subterranean environment. When the gold veins were eventually exhausted, the mining operation ended, but the fortified facility remained. The underworld of ancient lore was, in its inception, an abandoned industrial ruin repurposed by its overseers. The site entered a second phase of utility. It was converted into an early penal colony for the detention of evil people in general. This wasn't an eternal destination. It was a facility where prisoners were held and tortured temporarily to pay for their earthly sins. The system operated on cold, bureaucratic logic. There was no desire to waste the effort on a soul deemed beyond fixing. While modern myth suggests endless suffering, the historical protocol was simple. If a soul could not be repaired, it was destroyed. For those deemed redeemable, the sentences were long, yet they were defined by the hope of an eventual release date. This was a pragmatic justice system, designed for processing and correction, not a theater for infinite revenge. Before the time of Christ, death led to a universal destination. Everyone, regardless of their moral standing, was sent to this physical holding facility in Africa. While good people were not subjected to the torture of the penal colony, they were still restricted to the facility, unable to leave the holding zone. Access to this facility was controlled by what Rael refers to as the keys to Hades, literal operational tools required to release those wrongly held within the complex. The gates of the netherworld were feared universally because under the old protocol, there was no bypass for this physical holding zone at the moment of death. Christ's crucifixion served as an operational override. It unsealed the gates of the African facility, changing the protocol for how souls were managed at the end of their lives. With the gate open, those deemed worthy were no longer confined underground. They were permitted to be taken off-world immediately upon death. Under this new system, human lives are recorded and restored elsewhere. Earth's Hades is revealed as just one localized node in a larger network of penal planets within the system. The fiery hell of Scripture wasn't born from imagination, but from the trauma of an underground African mine that served as a temporary stop in an interstellar justice system.